And now I see the reports that he builds and they are so beautiful and they're so amazing. He's like, I could do this forever. It gets so easy. And there's so many things he could report on. And this is a big thing. So many things that he could report on in HubSpot that he never could in Salesforce. And that's like a lot of the things that are tied to revenue and product lines.
Hey, Sprocketeers, I'm super excited. It's your boy, George B. Thomas, and we're back with another episode of educating you on the things that you need to know when it comes to marketing and sales and service and HubSpot and all those great, amazing things. And today is, man, I am excited because we are answering a question that when we do HubSpot onboardings or when we're talking to people who are thinking about going with HubSpot, that we get all the time is that is, why should I switch from Salesforce to HubSpot? However, I am not the thought leader in this topic, so I brought in a friend, Christina Kay. Let me go ahead and bring her into the show. How are you doing, Christina, today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I am honestly, like, I've been anticipating. We scheduled this a while ago, like back, like literally last year we scheduled this. So I'm excited that we're actually doing it now, and that the viewers, the listeners, will be able to really have some actionable items around this topic of switching from Salesforce to HubSpot. Really everything that they need to know. At least that's what we titled this thing. So we'll do our best, right? So let's just kind of start at the beginning, and we'll circle back around to like deeper reasons as we get further into this interview. But what are some surface level reasons that the viewer should even entertain the idea of switching from Salesforce, the thing that their sales team and marketing team might be using right now, to like everything in HubSpot if they're watching this right now?
So it's going to help your organization, and I'll just take these words from HubSpot, but grow better. And it's going to help them grow it as individuals better and grow as a team across the board. And obviously when that happens, your revenue grows.
So that's a little teaser, people. We're going to go deeper, trust me, as we move forward. But let's back up about 50,000 foot. Christina Kay, why don't you take a minute to tell people who you are, what you do, and actually where you do it?
I'm Christina Kay, VP of Marketing at ResellerRatings. My title is VP of Marketing, but I do a little bit of everything over there because we are a 10-year-old startup, if you will. Our story is kind of unique. So I roll up my sleeves and do things that not a normal VP does. But one of my passions is MarTech. So I'm really that person leading those charges, I guess you could say, especially with the migration from Salesforce to HubSpot. And then all of the migrations that I did once that happened, just to help the business grow. And then I partner with our CRO and CEO on all of our go-to-market plans.
Viewers, listeners, I hope you realize what she just said is I'm not interviewing one of them. They're thought leaders. I'm interviewing somebody who's in the trenches, who has been there, done that, to give you the information that you need. So, Christina, let's start with this. What are the major differences when you think about HubSpot and Salesforce that anybody who's viewing this and thinking of making the switch that they should be putting into their brain and thinking about?
This is really interesting because I had a conversation this week actually with someone about this, because really it's just a lot of people don't know that HubSpot has a CRM because Salesforce has been that CRM that everybody used in the past, or like there's other ones obviously, but the big guys are Salesforce. And the biggest differences, I would say, the way that you can customize each. Yes, you can. It's a lot harder to customize Salesforce, and HubSpot, it helps you grow with it and grow with your business. Salesforce, you kind of have to make a decision to like do something in their process builder and go with it, because otherwise changing that is affecting so many other things that you have to do basically that all over again when you're like just changing up leads and contacts and things like that within Salesforce. But HubSpot, you can quickly do things. One thing I know that my CRO loves now that Salesforce does not have the ability to do, and I know this is so minimal, but it saves so much time and just like headaches, is bulk changing things on property records. I know that's so little, but if you think about if you have like a salesperson that leaves, really anything that happened, but that's a really good example because in Salesforce, it's harder to do that. And HubSpot, you just check them like on a box and you can select all and assign and changes. And there's just so many different things. That's just one thing. That's a major perk. The difference is, again, it's easier to customize and build with your business. Salesforce is just that big ship that you got kind of have to keep turning in a sense. And with HubSpot, you can really just build that ship while you're working on it, but it's still going to be a nice little oiled engine.
Yeah, I love that. The idea of this kind of growing in almost modules or blocks, if you
Mm-hmm.
will, versus like, oh crap, we've got to destroy the whole thing and completely rebuild, which gets scary because that takes me to like the historical thought of like rebuilding a website and like
Yes.
it's just this like massive momentum move. And
Mm-hmm.
also, I love that you brought up the property changes because while you can think of it as a minimal thing, if you have 50,000 or 100,000 or 300,000 contacts or properties that you're trying to, that is not a minimal thing.
Yes.
That's a
Yes.
major thing that you're trying
Yes.
to do. So
Yep.
here's where I want to dive a little bit deeper into this. And instead of kind of the differences, there's people out there, they're sitting at their desk, they're sitting on their, sipping on their coffee or their Pepsi or whatever their beverage, it might be tea, their beverage of choice. What would you say to them as far as like the major 2 or 3 reasons that they should really be thinking about switching from HubSpot to Salesforce, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe even position this in the way, like if you see this in your organization,
Yep.
it might mean it's a good idea to switch.
So one of the things, and I will say this, and I probably will say this a lot during this talk, is HubSpot, instead of thinking of it as just a vendor you use for your CRM, they truly are a partner and they truly want you to succeed. And that's not only like your CSM or your contract account person, it's also the HubSpot community. And the Salesforce side of the community isn't as how do I say this, excited to help others. They're great and they're passionate too, but there's just something special about the HubSpot community and the HubSpot team itself really trying to have you grow, because it kind of essentially is a part of your organization and part of your team that really wants you to succeed as well. So I would say that that is one of the reasons for sure to switch from Salesforce to HubSpot. Another thing is HubSpot truly listens to product ideas, to things that need to change. And I feel like, and you could totally say I'm wrong on this one, George, but I feel like once a month there's something in beta that you can test and you can try and see if it works for your business. Like how payments just was launched like for everybody the other day. And that's a huge, huge thing that Salesforce really doesn't have, that its own company. You'd probably have to use one of their app marketplaces with, but to get people on and signed up so quickly with your business without even like thinking. And that's just, again, a time saver. That's a money saver essentially, and productivity. And your customers are going to have a better experience with your product, the sign on of it. And then from that, you with HubSpot, you can do workflows to get them onboarded, send videos of how to add users to your product or things like that. The second main reason to like kind of wrap that up in one is it's going to streamline your business and help grow you incredibly, but also help your customers adapt to your product more. And I know that sounds weird that a CRM will do that, but HubSpot in a whole has every part, that touch point, I guess you could say, that your customers need to succeed. But also along the way, HubSpot's there to help you. HubSpot is there to hold your hand through it, even if it's this migration that you're like have to go over with everything, because that is a big deal, you know. And they're there to help because they truly want you to succeed. And the one thing I noticed when working with Salesforce a couple times, you don't really know who your account manager is a lot of the times, and it changes. And HubSpot has that way with their culture, which probably is part of their culture code and how you get hired to work for HubSpot. It really trickles down and almost like goes into the customers as well, because that's that connection, because they really want you to grow as well.
I love this conversation because it's true. I don't think you'd probably find a page on the HubSpot website that talks about like this team that you get or the community that is around it. And ever
Mhm.
since I fell into kind of the inbound space, the HubSpot space in 2012, I have always said and heard others say, this is one of the most amazing communities that I've ever been part of. And it really comes down to this like mindset that I think it comes from, HubSpot themselves, but it's this thing of helping. And I love that you mentioned, CSM and account manager, literally HubSpot people that come along for the ride. There's a complete customer success team that some people also have access to. And then you're right, the community, folks like you, myself, other individuals that are just there to answer questions and help people grow. Also, in that last segment, I heard you say, not a static software. It's always growing. And by the way, I'm not going to disagree with you. There is always a new beta. There's always a new thing. There's something that you can test, which then led me to thinking about really, Christina, what you're talking about is it's a customizable system.
Mhm.
HubSpot is that you can wrap around your business instead of feeling like right now you might be a Salesforce user and you feel like, man, I'm just trying to cram everything into this SaaS software versus HubSpot wrapping it around your business. And then the
Mhm.
last piece you said was streamlining your process, which by the
Yep.
way, we all know that time is money. And if you can switch from Salesforce to HubSpot and you can save you and your employees time by streamlining the process, by
Mhm.
using workflows and automation, what a great reason
Oh
to
yeah.
make that switch.
Yeah, so one thing I did forget is, and this is also kind of going along with the streamlining, but the HubSpot API to connect with is much easier to work with than the Salesforce one. With HubSpot too, like again, this is kind of going back to their support and help, but they have a development specific documents for things like this. So you can do it custom objects with that, but they have their API documents for specific things, just like contacts, companies, deals, and then you can basically do a custom one completely. And that's big for the SaaS or that subscription model type of business because you want that information that your software has to go right into HubSpot because that's going to help your CS team. That's going to help your execs have a better view quickly with your customers and logging into one thing. And that's for me something that, again, maybe minimal, but instead of having to log into like 5 different softwares just to get one piece of information or a bunch of information so I can report on it, with HubSpot, you can have the prettiest dashboards and analytics information just right at your fingertips. And a lot of that is templated. Like you have so much. And the cool thing with that too is HubSpot listens and sees what people are doing with their dashboards. So if they see it consistently, they will make a template that you're like, oh, wow. So then you can use that too. With that, because I love analytics, I love looking at why things happened or why they didn't and making decisions based on the numbers sometimes. That HubSpot just helps with that. And with the API, we can really see like user adoption, and then the CS team can see risk factors. If certain things aren't happening or if they haven't logged on in 3 weeks and their renewals next month, you're like probably like, oh crap, like that's not good. But you don't know that if you don't have that API in to HubSpot without obviously going into your own software. But it's just all there. You can make the prettiest custom modules for your team. And you can also see that full view when you have your executive meeting saying, hey, this is the at risk. This is what we're going to do. And it could be specific ones or a client they see like, oh, I have a good relationship with the CEO. I'll give them a call. And it just easy for everybody. And on reporting, you can schedule, and I know you can do this also in other ones, but in other CRMs, but with HubSpot, you can schedule the reports to go out to like anybody really, and you can do it monthly, weekly, whatever you need. But it does come as a dashboard with the like charts and things like that. And you can also send it as a PDF attached. So it's a way to download and just view it right there instead of having to log right into HubSpot.
Yeah, there's so much good stuff. And what's funny is you're talking about dashboards, which I actually
Mhm.
absolutely love, and reporting and analytics, and the fact that you can make those reoccurring emails with that information. HubSpot just recently, speaking of updates and betas and all that stuff, they made it so you could literally make an individual report that Jimmy from like whatever part of your company needs to see on a weekly basis. You can literally make just an individual report, a reoccurring
Mhm.
email as well. So it's and that's the thing I love about HubSpot. They're always listening to their users. They're doing things like you say, they're making things easier. The API is easier, creating your dashboards easier, understanding your analytics. The fact that you said it's pretty, like I
Mhm.
know that sounds insignificant again, but being able to like what you're actually looking at on a daily basis when it is your all-in-one software is
Mhm.
absolutely amazing. So let's
Yeah.
step back, Christina, and let's talk about maybe historically, what have you seen that has stopped some companies from making the switch? Like what are the mentalities that you wish if you could just destroy, break, get rid of, that people are like, well, we can't make the switch because of this, or that?
This is funny you ask this because it actually was said to me when I first suggested it. So, and I suggested it, mind you, like day 2 of the job I'm currently at. And really came down to them or like a person like not knowing that HubSpot is a CRM or could be a CRM because to go back to like in the beginning, I was talking about how people really know Salesforce as that CRM. And I kind of sometimes say it as it's the Kleenex, because if you say Kleenex, it's a tissue technically, but Kleenex is also a brand. And when you say CRM, 9 times out of 10, if you don't use HubSpot, you'll probably think they're talking about Salesforce. And so what I did and what the challenges that I've heard when I say, hey, let's switch to like HubSpot CRM is they could think that it's not even CRM. It's like, oh, just a marketing thing or a database of contacts, but that is the CRM if you technically break that down, but neither here or there. And then the way to report, like reporting, is definitely one. Or the really biggest struggle and the thing that I get would be like, oh, it's going to be hard, But in reality, if you're using HubSpot already for your marketing or for service or one of the hubs that is not the CRM and it's synced, you are going to have a very easy time with that migration because you can sync it to basically mirror each other and everything that is in Salesforce will be in HubSpot. So the only thing really you'll have to do to change that without kind of messing anything up, and you could tell the person that's saying, no, we're not doing this, is basically working out the workflows that you have in Process Builder within Salesforce. That is so much easier to create because Process Builder is, I mean, I've used it for so long. And even at the end, that when we were fully going over to HubSpot, I was like, thank goodness I never have to do Process Builder in Salesforce again. Like, because it's so much work. I think the biggest challenge, and I know this is not probably fully answering that, but is because people don't know what they don't know. So what I did, and we joke about it because this like my CRO, Brad, he says I was very sneaky, or not sneaky, but sneaky in like a great way, is send those reports because he was worried that he couldn't have the reports he had in Salesforce within HubSpot. And now I see the reports that he builds and they are so beautiful and they're so amazing. He's like, I could do this forever. It gets so easy. And there's so many things he could report on. And this is a big thing. So many things that he could report on in HubSpot that he never could in Salesforce. And that's like a lot of the things that are tied to revenue and product lines. Once I proved to him, like, this is an actual thing, it's not this like fluffy marketing system, and it's not that in general at all, but having people change the way they think. And so I just started sending him reports that he had in Salesforce. I also started kind of just always going to HubSpot for different things being created for like the sales team. And then he started to realize, wow, this is so powerful, especially if it comes to like tracking links and meeting links, like little things like that. Just so many things that people don't know what they don't know, especially if they have been in that Salesforce world forever, because that has been the CRM. And if they've been in sales their whole career, that's probably all they've known, unless they went to like a Dynamics or Sugar CRM or a homegrown one. It's what they don't know. But all of those probably are ones that kind of align with Salesforce and how they have set up their CRM. And with HubSpot, I just feel the one thing that I always hear is like, oh, it's going to be hard to do. But HubSpot, like we've kind of talked about it, make it simple. And HubSpot always says that it's, I think it's like customized without like the complexity. And that's super huge. And I know Yamini at Inbound this past year talked about putting that C back in the CRM, because truly that is something that needs to happen in general with like just one, the world we live in, but two, it's just going to help your sales team and your market team really want to push and help and get to their KPIs. And the thing that you can really kind of talk to your members of the team about her saying no, you can say, hey, like what's your goal at the end of the year for revenue, or even if it's a marketing thing, or if it's a sales and marketing alignment. In HubSpot, you can do that. And in Salesforce, you really couldn't unless I've not seen or been at a place that sales and marketing has been super aligned if people don't agree on certain things in the CRM. But with HubSpot, you can do that. And I could go on and on about this, about deflecting things, or but the no buts, I guess you can say, with Salesforce, because HubSpot has thought of all of them. And if they haven't, or if it's not in place, I'm betting it's probably in the community help area that it's in process as a solution. They're thinking about the beta for it. And that's another thing, is you can put out these great ideas. And if you have a certain amount of upvotes on it, they probably will start thinking about building that. And that's something that I haven't really seen in that Salesforce world. So one thing to say to your probably executive team is they truly want to work with us in the sense of work with our business. Yes, it's not we're the only customer, but you'll feel like that. And with Salesforce, I feel you don't get that feeling. And so you really have that custom CRM without the complexity, because that switch is a lot easier than you think.
And honestly, Sprocketeers, I think we might have reached the rewind point in the interview. Like, there's so many good nuggets there. And Christina, it's funny because one of my next questions I wanted to ask that was going around in my brain is like, what would you say to those that are stuck in the answer of like, what stopped folks from making the switch? And what's funny is you dripped in the answer to that along the way as you were talking. Like when I heard you say, I was sneaky in all the best ways possible. What you were kind of saying there is, well, one, I showed them the possibilities. I sent them some reports. Two, I kind of educated them along the way to what we could be doing. And then three, I heard you just say, I kind of just dripped it into like things that I would do throughout the process. And all of a sudden I was kind of leading them to HubSpot. And, the old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. Yeah. However, if that water looks really good, they're going to drink, right? And so I love this idea of kind of just slowly implementing it in, educating your team, building some pieces that they're actually start to enjoy and leverage and dig into. And then it almost becomes like this thing that'll just grow throughout your system. The other piece that I totally agree with you that you started to talk about is, I don't know too many other softwares that really do pay attention to allowing their users to help navigate the ship or the direction of the ship that HubSpot does when it comes to the features that they add. And those upvotes that you were talking about are so, so important. And I'm always on HubSpot onboardings being like, listen, that's a great idea. Go upvote it. Or here it is. Somebody else thinks it's the same thing. Or go create your own ideas.hubspot.com thing there. So beautiful, great answers. A question for you. So, because I want to get into like, man, here's like the meat of the conversation. If somebody, they're watching this interview and they're like, yes, okay, you got me. Like, I'm ready to do this. Yep. Is there a step-by-step process or a checklist that people who do decide to make the switch, is there a 4-step or 6-step process that you would say, this is probably what's going to get you 90% of the way there or give you the best results? What are your thoughts?
So I actually created one just for us, just for my own insanity, I guess you could say, while this whole process was going on. And I still have it documented. So I do send it out to people who reach out to me for just them to use. And with that too, I will say I also have created this is the biggest and it's not really a step for the process, but I mean, it kind of is, but I would say it's one of the last steps is figuring out or remembering what is the same things. I guess if that makes sense. So it'd be like accounts in Salesforce is companies in HubSpot, and contacts and leads in Salesforce is contacts in HubSpot. Deals in HubSpot are opportunities in Salesforce. So like just getting that like rhythm back in your mind, or just knowledge in your mind. And I have that all like written down into my little HubSpot, Salesforce to HubSpot dictionary. And I gave it to our team to help them navigate. But that would be like almost step 4 when you're ready to fully migrate. But what I would honestly say, if you were, say you're doing it today, I would start slow. So I would get maybe some of your account managers and some of your SDRs in there, because at that point, you can get some almost focus groups internally on things they like, things that they want to change. Because that's what I did. I sat onto like sales calls, like prospecting, and then like CS and just like our actual customers calls, because I wanted to see how they were using our CRM, like our employees, and see what I could change. So with that, I created so many different custom properties within each object, because it just wasn't working, and it was working, but just easier for them. Like for instance, little things, when they call a prospect, they wanted to have some different meeting outcome things in there, so they didn't have to like type as much. And I know that sounds so little, but if you're a SDR and you're like pounding the phones and wanting to call different like leads or all like the inbound form fills, you want to go as quick as possible, in the sense of just have a rhythm with it, and just listening to your customers and not just focusing on that and not worrying about the software you're in, and you want it to work with you. So I would say go slow, so you can really talk to your employees saying, hey, what's working, what's not? Is there something you should add? And at that point too, then those people, you can kind of crown them as your HubSpot champions, and they can be with you while you work through the whole rest of the team, and also empowers them, and that makes people feel good. And that would probably be my number one thing to say, or a step. And then you can start going and kind of flowing it throughout your whole business, because you are growing with it. You're growing with each person's like feedback. And obviously everything is not going to be done right away, that if people have feedback. There's some things that some feedback are like, hey, this is not working for us, we're going to go this route. And 9 times out of 10, they understand, and they'll get in the groove with what is going on. But start slow and go through each like groups of the team. You can do, if your team's big, you can do like 5-10 people at a time, and just keep going. Because the more, if you do it that way, if you think about it in a sense of just collection of people, by the time you have to do the last group, they've probably are already doing it on themselves, because they're just, hey, everybody else is doing it, so I want to log in. And so it almost helps you out with your method, and then it gets everybody engaged in a team together, really building it, and they feel also part of that migration and part of the solution. So they'll be happy to be in that CRM. And a lot of people, I mean, I've never really met a person who's very excited to log into their like CRM every day, but I feel like our team loves it. I know it sounds so weird, but I see the stuff they're doing in the system, and it's pretty cool. So that's probably big step 1. And I know I went step 4, but I wanted to show you the where to start and like the ending point, just for like that team knowledge dictionary book. But 2 is connect with people in the community, because you're not alone. If you are a one person shop and like doing all of the tech, like basically I was in this sense, and we did have a lot of help from HubSpot, but there are so many people in that community that will help you. Like I jump on calls with people and walk through things with them, or if they're even like, hey, I'm like frustrated, reach out. So reach out to people in the community of HubSpot, because they truly want you to succeed too, because they're probably just as passionate as I am about the HubSpot CRM. So don't be afraid. Maybe get your ego out of the way and just be like, I need help, to someone on community or on LinkedIn, because they'll also probably take that as a compliment, that they're like, oh, they think I'm smart. Like, they're reaching out to me. So you're probably making their day. And I would say the last thing is what I did is got 2 screens and I went through every dashboard or every report we had within Salesforce and duplicated it right within HubSpot. And if there wasn't a chart type, like for instance, I will say like HubSpot doesn't have a gauge right now, and the one in Salesforce does. But I found one that kind of told the story a little better for us because it was KPI reporting. In the KPI chart type in HubSpot is so clear in the sense of they know if they're up or down or getting it or not. Like, there's no gray lines with that. So working through that and training the team on this is a chart. Instead of seeing the gauge all the time, you're going to see this. Looking at your screen with Salesforce, looking at your HubSpot screen, and just making all of those reports. And then from there, what I did or what you should do is challenge someone, maybe one of those people who there's like just a lot of different go-getters, different types of people like that in companies. Challenge them to create their own report of stuff they want to see or things that they know that is going to help them work harder to get to their numbers and see if they need help with that. But HubSpot reporting analytics area is so easy to use, and their product tours really kind of walk you through it. So I would say empower your team to create your own reports and dashboards. But if once you're setting up like for the first time, just have your Salesforce to your left or whatever way you want to do it, and just make those dashboards reports within HubSpot because it's really going to help you, one, learn how to do it. Two, you'll see if your data is wrong or data is off, and then you can dive in from there. But doing that just side by side and kind of breaking it down and taking your time. I'm not saying doing this in a week. Like if you have a lot, I would say break it down, but that's going to help you so much seeing how clean or not clean your data is. Just going through the motions of mirroring the reporting, it's going to help you so much, and it's going to help your exec team as well once they're logging into HubSpot, seeing those reports, because things don't be changing much from that point because they'll see everything they saw in Salesforce and just in a different type of view. And like I said, it's prettier. So who doesn't like to look at pretty reports?
And Sprocketeers, I hope you realize how many tidbits of great information there were in those 4 steps that Christina covered on everything you need to know from switching from Salesforce to HubSpot, kind of a checklist way to think about this as you move forward. Christina, this has been amazing. We've got a little over 30 minutes of value on this conversation of HubSpot, Salesforce, switching from one to the other. I just want to ask one last question. And by the way, here in a second, I'm going to give you the opportunity. Where do you want people to reach out if they have questions, all that good stuff? But my last question is, and this could be specific to this conversation, it could be completely sideways, totally up to you. And that is, what are some just words of wisdom that you would leave the viewers kind of before we end the interview on either HubSpot, Salesforce, switching, life in general? What say you?
Yeah, I would say don't be afraid that if you are on Salesforce right now and you are upset about it, don't be too upset, because honestly, like in general, Salesforce is a powerful engine. It's a powerful CRM. And so don't get down about it, but truly start learning more or connecting with people in general about just tech stacks and maybe the HubSpot community in general, because once you get ingrained in that, you're going to have more confidence to go to your team to have that switch to HubSpot. And I say that I'm not saying like everybody needs to move. Like obviously that'd be great for HubSpot, but some people just won't and totally get it. Really get that knowledge and be that expert at your company in just various tech stacks, because I truly feel that if you are confident in yourself, people will see that and they'll also be drawn to you and they will go to you to ask what to do next. And at that point, that's when you've kind of like, you'll know you've quote unquote won, and you can say, hey, I have this great idea. Let's move to HubSpot CRM. That could be a huge turning point, 1 for your career, 2 for the business. And I mean, it's going to help you just build your self-confidence. And that sounds so crazy, but it really truly has for me, ingraining myself in different communities of the partners or vendors we work with, but also just reading and challenging myself, but also just taking it day by day and not thinking I have to do it tomorrow or do it all today. Do it all in a month, even all quarter. Just go with your own pace, but truly reflect and learn, because it's going to help you throughout your whole career, whether you're just starting, in the middle of it, at the end of it. If you want to do something new, like learn a CRM or convince your exec team to change tech stacks, just have that confidence in yourself and truly learn, truly read, and you will not fail. And I promise you that.
I love that. The idea of educating yourself, building yourself as the thought leader, then bringing it to the team. That's so amazing. Great words of wisdom. First of all, Christina, thank you for taking time to bring this mass amount of value to the community. With that said, where can people reach out to you? Where do you want them to head next if they have questions or need resources? Let the community know.
Yeah. So you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. You can see me as like Christina Kay. And then Twitter, I talk a lot about HubSpot, a lot about HubSpot CRM. I talk random things too, like the Cleveland Browns. This is us. Like sometimes it goes all over the place, but 9 times out of 10, I'm at least talking about HubSpot CRM or HubSpot in general, or tweeting with some HubSpot people or HubSpot community people. And honestly, that's where you could probably find your digital family, I guess you could say, to learn and grow. And so, yeah, reach out to me, connect, and I'd love to help you.
So I absolutely love this interview, and there are so many good nuggets of information. I hope that you rewind and rewatch some of this and then take notes. I have taken some notes along the way, things about going slow, things about the focus on internal communication. But one of the things that kept coming back that we said over and over again during this interview is it seems little, the little things. But I will say here at the end of this interview that the little things can make big changes or make big differences. And so think about what can you do as you make this move from Salesforce to HubSpot? What little things can you implement that will streamline your process? And while you're doing that, remember to be a happy, helpful, humble human. And we'll see you in the next interview.